Hey B3, I'm Shannon, and this is your 30-minute strength sequence. So when you're in the process of programming a strength routine, repetition is the name of the game, and that's what we're going to be doing today, keeping it simple, but not necessarily easy. As you know, we've got 2 movements for the upper body. It's going to be an overhead press as well as a row, and then 2 for the lower body. You're going to see a lot of different lunging variations as well as some squats sprinkled throughout. So a really bread and butter class. You're going to see a lot of different iterations and repetition of those movements to give you the opportunity to really forge that neuromuscular control between the brain and the body. And just as a side note, I would encourage you to continue that repetition by revisiting this workout, every week, every other week, just to continue to find that progression. So what you'll need for this class is a circle band. I'm rocking with a light just for the warm-up, and then 2 sets of weights, medium and heavy. You've probably noticed I've got a chair here. We're gonna do a couple planks as the intermediate move between blocks. So if you wanna take some weight out of the wrists or the forearms, hands for any reason, you've got that as an opportunity. Additionally, we're gonna be doing a lot of bent over row variations. So if your back is feeling iffy for any reason, or you just want it there for a little bit of insurance, which is honestly why I've put it there for myself in case I need it, just go ahead and grab a chair. You don't have to use it, but just knowing that it's there might be helpful. So when you're ready, we're gonna put that circle band just above your knees, and then come down to a kneeling position for some horizontal arms with breathing. Looks like this. Inhale, open up the arms wide, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Exhale, push. Think about drawing the insides of the elbows in towards one another. Good, keep going at your own pace. I've turned to the side, so right away you can notice how I'm keeping my rib cage anchored down. Good, forging that connection to the core right away. Now this movement is intentional. We're working to warm up the scapula, which I consider the gateway to the mobility in the arms. So squeeze the shoulder blades together, feel a subsequent opening of the chest, and then feel the scapula wrap around the rib cage as you push. We've got one more here, and then you're gonna meet me in a tabletop for a glute kickback with hamstring curl, like this. Knees hip-width distance apart, side 1, pull the navel in, right here. Up, 2, out, 2, curl in, back down. Now, if that cadence feels a little too quick to start out, you're welcome to bring it down to a 4 count. I'm less concerned about the speed at which you move through not only this, but through the rest of the movements contained within this class. And I'm more concerned about the form and even more importantly, the sensation. So know that you've got the option to come down onto your forearms if your wrists are feeling a little bit fatigued from this, or you can take it standing. Yeah, you've got lots of options here. My intention for you here is to begin to feel it in the opposite stabilizing outer hip, as well as core and your chest. Good, we've got one more here. Then you're gonna step this working leg forward and through into a lunge with those standing T-arms. So it looks like this. You're standing, that forward leg's through. You've got a lunge, down, up, 2, back, and up. Good, so again, if this 2 count feels a little bit too fast, you're welcome to slow it down. And in fact, I think I'm gonna take that for myself, taking it back to a 4 count. I just feel like this is a good moment to find that stability, especially with the band. And with this being a single leg movement pretty early on. So right here, you can keep your back toes on the ground the entire time, or as you sweep your leg forward, you can bring it to tabletop. Regardless of whichever variation you've selected, I really want you to focus on the front working leg here. So the foot and the ankle bears the most weight out of any joint in the body. So really trying to work for stability through the foot, spreading the toes out wide, gripping the mat with your foot, creating a stable base. Last one before we return back to tabletop for side 2. Glute kick back to hamstring curl. Back onto your hands or forearms or chair. You know your options. Knees hip width distance apart. Up, 2, back. Bring it in, take it down. So by now, after having worked that side 1 already, you're probably noticing a little bit of extra spicy sensation in that outer hip. That's exactly what we want. Good, so right here, notice as you lift that leg off the ground, the tendency is gonna be to shift towards that grounded knee to find some semblance of stability. That's where the work here resides. I want you to keep your shoulders stacked directly over your wrists and trying to find that cross-body connection in order to keep the hips level. Good, try not to rock too much through the pelvis. Last one here, and then step your foot through between your hands, come up to your lunge. Down and up, 2, 3, 4. So again, I started at that 2 count. It didn't feel great. That's how I'd practiced it. That's how I intended to teach it. But once we got here, that 4 count just felt a little bit better. So just knowing that you have the autonomy to always play around, not only with the depth of the movement, but also the cadence. But what that requires is that you really are checking in with yourself throughout, yeah? All right, so here, you don't need to go till your knee touches the ground. You can keep the moving foot, those toes on the ground the entire time, or bring it up to tabletop. We've got 2 more here, and then we're gonna get rid of that band and pick up our medium weights. Last one, big squeeze of the shoulder blades. Exhale, engage the chest. Good. We are finished with that band. Get it out of the way. Medium weights. So right here, side 1, incline crescent with an alternating row. So find incline crescent, up and switch, 2 count. Up, 2, down, 2. Good. So right here, this is an opportunity to use that chair, yeah? If this incline doesn't feel good, you've got a few options. You can just take it to a single side, okay? Or you can play around with how inclined your spine is. Regardless, the intention here in this isometric hold through the lower body is to give your spine and the muscles that support it, rather, an opportunity to begin to turn on with these medium weights. So notice how my chest is slightly lifted. It's kind of the inverse of this lax, rounded spine, yeah? So think about pulling the bottom angle of your scapula down towards your hips. Good. We've got 2 more here before we're gonna find a similar lunge step through with the weights. So lunge down, up, 2, 3, 4, back, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4. So this looks exactly like that warm-up move that we did, but this time we've got weights in our hands. So you know the options through the legs. You can keep that back toe grounded the entire time, or you can bring it up to tabletop. Notice I brought the weights to my side. You can put them on your shoulders. As the weights are a little bit higher here, that's lengthening how far away they are from midline. That's gonna ask your core to work just a little bit harder. Again, regardless, I really want to call your attention to what your front foot is doing. It's fighting so hard to stabilize. So let's help it out. Spread the toes wide and then squeeze through the ball mound of the foot and feel the arch actively lifting off the ground. Good, last one until we move into a weighted march. Change, come to standing, weights in either hand. Super simple, but not easy. You're gonna lift one foot, place it down, slow and controlled, and then do the same thing other side. So, I really like still kind of sleeper movements like this because they are as hard as you choose to make them. I was practicing these today unweighted, and I felt it so much in my core, in my outer hips. My feet were working really hard. So right now, give yourself that opportunity to find engagement, find stability, try to take any sway side to side out of the equation. Let's go one more each side before we're gonna take a 45-second plank. Your choice, either on the ground or at the box. 4, 3, 2, 1. Put the weights down, ground or box, push through the palms, and I want you to feel the sensation like we did in those horizontal T-arms at the start kneeling as well as in that lunge position of your shoulder blades kind of gliding around the outside edge of your rib cage. I want you to feel the space between those shoulder blades kind of doming while you look forward and down. Good, so now I want you to pull the heels of your hands towards your toes and vice versa. Feel the front side of your core turning on. You've got 4, 3, incline crescent, 2, side 2 in 1. Change, step forward, grab your weights right here. Up, 2, you switch. Good, right into it. I like the plank paired with the row because it's asking for the opposite side of the muscle group. We were just pushing through the chest, now we're pulling through the upper and middle back right here. Good, so if you're somebody who tends to feel rows in your biceps rather than in your back, I'm gonna encourage you, rather than thinking about pulling the weight up towards your shoulder, to instead kind of forget the forearm and the weight altogether. I want you to rather imagine that you are sweeping your elbow back. And like I mentioned at the start, so much of what we do in the arm is dependent on how well that shoulder blade is moving. So as you pull your elbow back, think about leading that motion with the scapula. Good, let's go 2 more here before we find that incline lunge with the step through. Right here, either weights by your side or at your shoulders. Back, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4. So, regardless of which variation you've selected, I want you to find a full lockout at the top with that standing leg. I don't mean hyperextend through the knee, but I do want you to find that full extension through the knee so that you're contracting your quad optimally. Now, there's a lot going on in these unilateral movements. Right now, the intention, at least one of them, is for that crossbody core control. And by now, you're probably noticing that heat building in the outer hip. That's keeping the pelvis level rather than letting it drop. Here's your last one before your second round of weighted marches. Good, so stable base, spread the feet wide, squeeze the toes together, up and down. Good, so I want you to imagine that you are being squeezed between 2 panes of glass. And it's your job not to touch either one on either side. So just noticing as you pick up one leg, how the body wants to shift to compensate. Can you prevent some of that side to side shift by squeezing this hip, engaging the core? Good, keep the chest up. Shoulders pinned down and back slightly. Good. Chin up, eyes forward. We're not solely pulling in the navel. I want you to think about 360-degree engagement of the core. Last one. You've got your 45-second plank on deck right here. Ditch those medium weights. Your time has started. 45 seconds, either on the chair, palms, or even forearms. I'm gonna take forearms this time, kind of shorten that lever. Spread the fingers wide. Regardless of the variation, I want you to think about drawing either the elbows or the hands together. Feel it in the chest. And now, push through your points of contact in the ground. Feel your chest elevating away from the ground. You're high up on your tippy toes. Now, can you think about pulling the top portion of your pelvis towards your lowest set of ribs? Last 3, 2, 1. Knees come down. Grab your heavy weights. We're gonna move into an incline crescent single arm row, but you're gonna have both weights. So right here, take the weight of that corresponds to the front foot, put it in your hip crease. You're gonna row up, 2, 3, 4, down, 2, 3, 4. Good. So this would be a great opportunity. If you wanted a little bit more support, you can still hang out in that lunge position, or you can even come to a staggered stance, okay? So I've chosen to slow this one down intentionally to a 4 count. So we're gonna have another opportunity to work with the heavy weights in a row variation. So I really wanna make sure that you've got that ideal connection to the scapula and the upper, middle, and lower back before we move into moving a little bit quicker with these heavy weights. So right here, as you sweep the weight back towards your hip, I want you to feel the shoulder blade wrapping in. Good, last one before we're gonna come into a reverse lunge with a staggered stance squat. Good, come to standing, weights to your shoulders. Looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4. Here's your staggered stance squat. It's a B stance with that heel lifted. Stand. So we're taking this at a 4 count. Up, drive through that standing foot, take it wide, slow and controlled, and back up. Good, so slide that foot back, drive up through the sole of the front foot, take it wide as you angle your knees out slightly. Good, so the foot that's moving, those toes can stay in contact with the ground the entire time, yeah? The heel is lifted, that foot is there in the case of the staggered stance, B stance squat for balance rather than as weight bearing. So in our last block, we're gonna have a squat press on deck. So we wanna prep. Here's your last one. You're gonna come to standing, weights in both hands for an Arnold press. Up, 2, press, 2. All right, let's speed it up for a true 2 count. Up, 2, press. Good, so this is our only true bilateral movement in this block. So it's a curl to your shoulders, overhead press as you turn your palms forward. So just notice your palms are facing you to start. At the end of the movement, they're facing away from you. Now, we're warming up for a squat press as the grand finale in the next block. So this is one of those opportunities where I need you to be really honest with yourself, checking in. where you're at with your shoulder and arm mobility today. And that's gonna start by anchoring the rib cage down. So as you pull the rib cage down, you might feel a little bit more restricted, and that's okay. Meet yourself where you're at. One more. Then we've got side 2, incline crescent, single arm, bent over row. Good. Non-working weight in the hip crease of the front foot for a count. Up, 2, 3, 4, down, up, and down. Again, if your back is starting to fatigue and you feel like your form is at all compromised, this chair is here, and it doesn't have to be a lot of weight that you put in it, yeah? And even if you are using the chair or some sort of other elevated surface, that is still an opportunity to engage through the entire length of the muscles that support and line the spine, right? So what we're not doing is this, yeah? Instead, we're kind of lifting. And you can think, if you're having trouble finding a connection to those muscles, I want you to think about anchoring the shoulder blades down towards the hips. Good, last one before we come into that reverse lunge with the staggered stance squat, weights at the shoulders. Good, stand tall like this for a count. Stand, take it wide. Good. Stand up, that's it. Good. So, you've got that leg, the stationary leg, that foot and that ankle are working super hard to find stability. Give it a little better chance by spreading the toes, kind of gripping the floor with it. Notice how maybe, just maybe, you'll feel a little bit more work in the outside edge of your hip when you squeeze through your foot. And then the leg that's moving, that's forcing the rest of the body to compensate, it's light. It's there for balance, and it's also there to offer a little bit of instability as we're making the transition slowly. Good, we've got one more all the way through before we move into our second and last set of Arnold presses. Good, finish it out. Good, come to standing, shake it out, feet hip width distance apart. Stable base, palms up, Arnold press. Up, 2, big press. Down and down. Good, so just notice how at no point, hopefully, am I moving any faster? Is the cadence changing through this movement? It's one stable movement, both all the way up and all the way down. Okay, we're not letting the weights collapse. We're not rushing through those sticky parts. Good. So keeping the rib cage anchored down. And you know, I don't even need to tell you, but you know, if you want to stop anywhere, if you're feeling a little bit of pinching, you don't have to ask, just do it. So we've got one more after this before we move into our last block. Let's finish it out. Good, and change. Okay, last block, 2 moves. Side 1, then we've got that bilateral squat press. Side 1, it's an incline bilateral row. Set it up, hinge forward, shoulders back, chest lifted, gaze is slightly neutral. Up, 2, down, 2. Good, so notice how as I draw my elbows back, it's almost as though they're lifting my chest because the muscles from the base of my skull all the way to my pelvis are working to keep the spine supported in this angled position. Good, and we're just finding a little contraction, a little squeeze at the top. You might even feel a little stretch in the chest as you squeeze your elbows and your shoulder blades together at the top. Chair is right there if you need it. You can do alternating, you can do one if you need. You pick the variation and you stay with it the next 15 seconds. All right, I've alluded to it a couple times now. Our big bilateral move on deck is the squat press. We're gonna take it at a 4 count this round. In 4, 3, 2, 1, change. All right, squat press. Set your squat stance. It's gonna look different for everybody. Weights at the shoulders, right here. Down, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, that's it. Down, slow and controlled. Park it, up. Good, so you can use that chair as a sort of box to kind of tap your bum against if you want to take a little shallower squat press, or you stop where you're comfortable, okay? Don't be afraid to let the knees travel over the toes. If that feels okay, if the heels are staying on the ground and you're not having any pain in the knees. What I want you to notice here is how elevated my chest is. And we've been working on the exact muscle group that's gonna make that happen, right? It's the back muscles that are keeping my chest elevated. Feel them working too. Last one, we've got that incline, bilateral row. Side 2, right here. Face forward. Side 2, set it up. We go in 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 count up, down, up, 2. So really, you are in control of the angle. I do want you angled though. So if we're here and pulling up, you're gonna run into a physiological barrier, and that's a little bit more shoulders than we want. You're gonna get enough in that squat press. Good, so shifting your weight forward as we begin to fatigue, and just know I'm right there with you, I'm beginning to fatigue. Now is that time, as we're working faster and with those heavier weights, to really check in on the form. Good, stable base through the foot, back muscles working, squeezing the shoulder blades together, feeling them kind of cascade around the outside edge of the rib cage as you let the weights come forward. 2 more before we move into our last round of squat press. Whew. Change. We have 1 minute here. Your call. You stay with that 4 count or you join me in 2 count. Right here. Down, 2, up, 2. Down, 2, up, 2. So you either stay that slow 4 count or you make it a little bit more ballistic with the 2 count. It's quite a long way to go on a 2 count, but that doesn't mean that we're out of control, right? If you're taking that 2 count or even that 4 count, I want you to park it at the bottom and then drive through the legs. So I want you to notice the timing discrepancy by intention that I have right here. I'm using the force of my legs into the ground to push the weights off the shoulders. Good, it's legs and arms. It's almost like you're gonna jump off the ground to give those weights a little boost. Last one, 4, 3, 2, 1, change. Whew. Deep breath. Take a moment. You are all finished. Okay. We've got a minute on each side, 3 moves to stretch through the lower body. So first one, standing hip circles. We've done enough balancing. I'm gonna call on the chair here. And really, this is called standing hip circles. You can make whatever shape you want. Ovals, figure 8. Let that next shape bring you into a standing figure 4. Good, those outer hip muscles that help us so much in everything we do day to day. They help keep our walking gait, our hips square, have done so much work for us, so let's stretch them out. Good, and then from here, lift the leg, step back, front foot straight, back foot out at an angle, hinge forward, stretching through the hamstring of the opposite leg, pyramid. Good, and change. We've got those standing hip circles. Really encouraging you to just get curious here. Doesn't have to look like anything. Just chasing that sensation while simultaneously working to slow that breath down. Meet me in a standing figure 4. Good, so when I teach in-person classes, I see some people getting super low in their figure 4, but they're dropping the hip of that externally rotated knee. So if you were to square your hips, where would that get you? Square them out and see if you can find sensation a little bit earlier here. Good, and change. Step it back, pyramid. Good, here just let the belly hang, head hang, and change. Come to standing. Take a wide stance. I want you to capture one elbow in your hand, bump your hips to opposite side and lean. Good, feeling a stretch through this entire side body. Good, and then we're gonna follow this into a forward fold, passing through center. Good, coming up that opposite way, grabbing opposite arm. Let's do the same thing, other side. Bump the hips. Good, allow the shoulder to drop, inviting some lengthening through this entire side body, feeling it in the hip flexors. And then roll down. Maybe at the bottom. Then just allow the upper body to hang for just a moment. And change. So I'm going to encourage you to find whatever position your body is asking for right now as we move into our final few moments of guided breath work. We are doing my absolute favorite breath work modality. It's called box breath. So it's in through the nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale through the nose for 4, hold on the exhale for 4. This is going to help usher us into a sympathetic or parasympathetic state of rest, relaxation. So let's take a cleansing breath in through the nose. Big open mouth exhale. And begin. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 4. Out. Hold. 4. Out. 4. Hold. 4. In. Hold. Out. Hold. Give you a few more moments of silence to move through one more round on your own. When you're finished, begin to flutter your eyes open if you've closed them like me. With so much gratitude, thank you for coming along with me through this 30-minute strength journey. And like I mentioned at the start, repetition is the name of the game. That is how we get stronger. That is how we progressively overload. So don't be afraid to come back to this video once a week, once every other week, and then notice how maybe you can begin to incorporate heavier weights as your body gets more familiar with these movements. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you on the mat again soon. Bye.